Hi gorgeous ones. You might have noticed in my Instagram and other social media feeds in the last few days that I've been trying to think of ways that I can serve people best right now, how I can help people to cope with their anxiety and really work with other people to move through this period of time, which is really freaking challenging for all of us. So I've started an online meetup that I'm running actually. I've already run the first one that happens twice a week. It's for sensitive souls and it's for women only. And I do a meditation and I talk about strategies for managing your sensitivity right now. And I do a bit of Q&A and basically, give people a bit of assistance in the mentoring space, which is what I also do usually with clients. And I've been feeling like that's a really good start, and I was wondering this morning what else I could possibly do to help people. And the word that came up for me this morning was distraction. What can I do to help people distract themselves? Because obviously the amount of stress that we're holding in our bodies right now, we really need to find ways to distract ourselves and pull us out of that really anxious state so we can continue to function. Also because, anxiety depresses our immune system, and that's definitely what we don't want right now. Anyway, on the theme of distraction, I thought to myself, what could I possibly do to distract people? And what occurred to me was, many of you may not actually know, but I wrote a book, upside down, and birthed it into the world a couple of years ago. It's called The Men I've Almost Dated. It's available on Amazon and Fishpond and all the usual places. And I was actually in the process of about to launch my next book at the start of May, and that has actually been put on hold now for obvious reasons. So I thought to myself, well, I can't distract people with my new work just yet because I don't feel it's the right time. But maybe I can distract you with my first work. And I thought, well, maybe I could even help you to get distracted right now by reading you parts of the book. And maybe that will help you to be more present with me in this moment and to reduce your levels of anxiety right now, so you can be a little bit freer of that feeling. So I'm going to read you parts of this book in a few videos for however long I feel like it's going to be of help to people. And if you do see this video on my socials and it has helped you or it's made you think about something, I would love you to comment underneath and share your thoughts with me and with the rest of the world so we can have conversations, because let's face it, in the current environment, really one of the primary ways we can interact with other people who aren't our immediate family who are living with us, or people who are living with us, is virtually online. So I really want to encourage you to do that, because I know that if you're anything like me, you are on your devices a lot more than you would usually be right now, or most of us are, I think. So, okay, The Men I've Almost Dated. Like I said, you can get it online if you want to read the whole thing. And of course, like I'm the author, I'm going to encourage you to do that. But really the whole purpose of me reading this excerpt to you today is so you can get a bit of a feeling for it, and also, like I said, distract yourself. Now, The Men I've Almost Dated was a labour of love that, I worked on for a long, long time. The idea of it was really born when I left my 15-year relationship. And I had got together with a man when I was very young, just before my 18th birthday. We were together 5 years, then we got married, and then I left him 10 years later on the weekend of our anniversary. Yeah, I know, it sounds like I'm a bitch, right? Yeah, I got that. And to be honest, I felt like a bitch for a long time for having left. But it really reached the point where we were going in opposite directions, and it just we weren't able to save it or retrieve it. And sometimes that happens with love. So, I then went out into the single world in my early 30s, and I had no clue about what the rules were when it came to dating. I was very naive. And then what ensued was a series of ridiculous activities with men, dubious decision making, and a lot of craziness. And I can remember coming home and talking to one of my housemates early on and about the recent debacle I'd had with some man, and she just looked at me and said, "Lou, you've got to write this stuff down because you couldn't make it up." And I know she was totally right, and that's, I guess, one of the reasons why I wrote the book. And I guess one of the other key reasons I wrote the book is I remember a few years after that when I was really just still scribbling notes down on post-it notes on the backs of receipts, in journals, sometimes on the computer. Just when I had an idea drop in, I would write it down, but I really wasn't taking it seriously. Anyway, I was working with this woman, and we were coming back from a meeting in town. I remember we were walking up through the city, and we'd known each other for a little while, but we didn't really know each other that well. It wasn't a really personal relationship. It was quite a professional one. Anyway, for some reason, as we walked across town, she started to talk to me about her situation. And she was just in the process of leaving a long-term relationship with a man. And she was going through all of the emotions and the turmoil and the confusion and the acting out and all of the stuff that happens when you are a female and you leave a long-term relationship. And her real challenge is that none of her friends had been through that experience. And also they were really attached to who she was when she was in that relationship. So they all thought she was losing her mind, she didn't know what she was doing, she was going to regret her decision, etc. And she was telling me her story. And of course I could relate because I'd been through it a few years earlier, and I was able to share with her some of my experiences and perspectives about that situation. And it felt like a good thing to do because it was helpful. A little bit down the track, she came back to me and she said, "Lou, thank you so much for that. When I went home that night and I lay in bed, I actually felt like a huge weight lifted from me, and I felt like I was normal." And to me, I think that was a turning point in me thinking, you know what? If I can help one person by sharing my story, then imagine how many others I could help as well who are also going through this experience. So, what I did a year or so later is I started writing the first draft of the book. And that's what I'm going to start to read to you now. And obviously with Instagram, it's like a 10-minute window. So you're going to have to tune back into other videos to get a bit more. The inscription at the front I've written is, "For all the women who still believe in love, don't give up." So I want you to hold on to that, ladies, as I begin to read to you the men I've almost dated. And I'm going to start from the beginning. Part 1. The wedding, the car park, and other realizations. Excuse me. I haven't done a live reading before. The wedding. Grandma sobbed throughout my wedding, and I don't mean quiet whimpers and sniffles. Her cries filled the gaps, reached a crescendo between the vows, and carried over our words. "She's just over emotional because of her stroke," Mum explained afterwards. I took her point, but it seemed like a lot of crying for a happy occasion. I'd had my own slightly hysterical meltdown when the wedding cars arrived 2 hours earlier. Everything else had been going according to plan, mostly. I contracted infections in both ears and my throat 3 days before, but the antibiotics and a generous slathering of Vaseline every night had mitigated a possible red nose situation. Thank God. That's just the beginning. I'm going to come back in and do keep reading for you over the coming days and weeks. Take care, guys. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.